Hello, this is Diana Fitzgerald, otherwise known as Banjo Flannel, and I wanted to show you something kind of simple, but is very critical because if you mess it up, it can be really frustrating. I'm talking about knots. So I wanted to show you how I knot my thread at the back of my textile. Some of you probably have your own way of doing this that you really like, but I've noticed that in my workshops, oftentimes, there's at least a couple people that are surprised and their minds are blown because they're so excited to know how to knot their thread so that the knot is exactly where they want it. So I'm going to show you how I do it, and that's something typical in my workshops. I go through every single step of how I create these textiles, and one of those things is how I knot my thread. So I have my line of stitching here, and I've ended it right there. Look on the back, I have my thread coming out. And this applies to any kind of hand stitching. Anytime you're going to be using a hand needle and thread, and you want to knot exactly where the thread came out. So here, I'm going to actually just take off the needle. And I'm going to make a little knot. I'm going to put the end of the thread through the loop, but before I tighten it, I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to put the point right where the thread came out of the fabric and hold it there, so that when I pull on this thread, it has no choice but to slide all the way down to the end and knot exactly where my the point of my needle is, which is right where my thread came out. And so when I take this away, my knot is exactly where I want it. I scratch a little bit towards the inside there, and it's perfect. You know, in the past I've done this and tried to slide it down with my finger, and then I end up with a loose knot, and then I try to knot again, and then I have two knots that are no good. So I hope this will help you when you're doing your hand stitching. It's a really easy way to make sure your knots get exactly where you want them. And then just snip it off.